Oh, guys, do you hear that? Do you hear that sound? Listen closely. You know what that is? That's the sound of top contenders calling for a title shot against Yuri Prochazka. I mean, I've got to tell you, I don't know that I've seen anything like this. I've seen it at featherweight within the women's division. When Chris Cyborg was champion, the scariest woman that ever fought. I have witnessed it there. But to see the people that have meaningful winning arguments, there are 3 winning arguments that you could sit down in front of a jury of your peers and absolutely convince you rightfully are the number 1 contender that has the right to take on Yuri Prochazka. 3 of those arguments that are dead even. One of them is going to get a phone call. Somewhere in this, one of them is going to get a phone call and be able to say, Chael, see this, I did it right. I did it my way, and I did it the noble way, and I did it the honorable way, and blah, 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 blah. They're all wrong. They've already proven me right and proved themselves wrong. I don't know if there has ever been a stronger case to be made. And none of them have gotten it yet. So just because a blind squirrel finds a nut sooner or later does not then reward the way they're going about this. And I bring that up because now Jamal Hill is in the mix. Now, Jamal Hill's argument is not as strong. He is just more recent. Jamal Hill is not getting the type of reception. He didn't get a response from Prochazka, say the same way that Glover Teixeira had. It's not as though Jamal is going to be going and he's going to be fighting Yuri Prochazka. That's not what I'm suggesting for you. What I am suggesting is 1 week ago, Jamal wasn't even in the conversation. When we were talking about who's next for Prochazka, and we've got it down to Ankalaev, and we've got Glover Teixeira in there, and we're talking about Jan Blachowicz, nowhere in that conversation was Jamal. But there is people today, right now as I speak to you now, right on the underground forum, the same online digital media board that has ran our industry since 2001. And there is a topic now for Jamal Hill. I'm not suggesting this for you. I'm not telling you Jamal is going to come in and grab this. I'm suggesting that there's no reason that you should let a single day go by, that you should let a single argument come forward, that you should let a single person be seen without locking that up and wrapping it up. And none of them have done anything. And when I tell you that one of those guys is going to get a phone call out of the blue and then be able to say, oh, I did it my way. I did it the right way. That is quite literally what's going to happen. Ankalaev's ranked number 4 in the world. Just took on a former title challenger. Not only won and dominated the contest, he won by stoppage. That's enough. In any platform in the modern era of this sport to make you the number 1 contender, but he's not. Jan Blachowicz would still be champion, according to the odds makers. When he went down and handed the title over, it was a massive upset. He was promised in writing on something known as Twitter that if he is to go out and beat Raychik, he will be given the opportunity to fight for a world championship. That's a really strong argument. Glover Teixeira was 30 seconds away, according to the turned-in signed judges' scorecards overseen by the commission, working at the discretion of the Attorney General's office, overseen by the governor of the state, from still having the belt. He did a call-out. The champion accepted. On any Saturday night, on any pay-per-view, in the modern era, that is enough to get you a world title fight. The argument that I just laid out for each of those 3 is far stronger, far more accurate, far more compelling, and will be heard by far more people than anything that they have personally said for themselves. And now you have Jamal Hill. This isn't a back and forth. I understand that Jamal is not going to swoop in and grab this. Why give him the opportunity? Why let that be out there? I can tell you some of the great fights that I've ever had anticipation or ever looked forward to. Some of the great fights were never promised to me. They were last minute, they were changes, they were switches at the end. It was like a perfect hook in a movie or television show that you watch. When you're watching a whodunit and the person that you least suspect, I can tell you how excited I was to watch Jose Aldo fight Conor McGregor. I was more excited when Chad Mendes stepped in on short notice. And I could play this game all day long. And you guys would have to concede it right back to me. It's like sometimes the unexpected is so much more thrilling, and something is holding that up, by the way. Glover Teixeira versus Yuri, if I'm to be fair with you, is the single greatest light heavyweight contest I've ever seen. And that was a record within myself that was held to Gustafsson versus Jones Part 1. How long ago was that? 2013? 2014? Somewhere right in there. I mean, we're talking about almost a decade. And it's now been replaced. Just an absolutely wonderful contest. Not to mention it was an upset. Not to mention numbers don't lie. And Glover, had he just beaten the clock, would have retained the championship. Like, that just checks every single box. Not to mention Yuri has agreed to do it again. Why is that not signed? It's very reasonable to the point that the other side of the coin, it would be irresponsible for you to not ask yourself that very question and attempt to identify the answer if you're within the division. If you're trying to learn something, like if this all comes out tomorrow, it's going to be Glover versus, okay, why is it going to be Glover versus Yuri? Well, because it was such a great fight. It was the greatest fight I've ever seen. Hell, he was only 30 seconds away. The judges had already turned their cards in. He was going to win it. It was a big upset. He's 42 years old, blah, 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 blah. If all of those things are true, why wasn't it signed by now? Okay, so that's not what it is. What's going to be on? Okay, why is it going to be on? Well, you know, Jan was promised this fight. He was promised it in writing. He was promised it by Twitter. It's a samurai way. That's according to Yuri Prohaska himself. Jan fought Rachik. It was a main event. We were said to be a number one contenders match. He won it. We flew him out. He did the cameo. It's going to be on. Okay, great. But all those things are already true. Those things don't become true today. They don't become true 5 minutes from now. They don't become true tomorrow. Those were already true, so why doesn't Jan have the fight? Ankalaev, ranked number 4, undefeated, possibly the greatest streak. I know that Ankalaev's last loss is not as recent as those. I can't remember who beat Ankalaev. Was it Paul Craig? It was a meaningful amount of time ago. So he gets this final say. He gets it in dominant fashion. He's the highest ranked guy to not yet be given the opportunity. If all of those things are true, and they are, why does he not have the fight? Because if he gets the fight tomorrow, or he gets it next week, or we make the announcement 2 weeks from now, nothing has changed. There's nothing new on the resume. There's nothing new in the win-loss column. There's nothing new in the drama or the story of the fight. Wherever those guys are, they are absolutely locked in, and nothing will change. But one day they're going to get a phone call and find out that they're fighting for a championship. Why? How does that work? And nobody gets to come back and go, see, Chael, there's a way to do it. And you had right. No, you don't get to do that. If you were right, if you were in the right and I'm in the wrong, you'd have the fight. If you're cheering or pulling for one of the 3 names that I just said, if your argument is the winning argument, you would already have the fight, because nothing is going to change between now and them getting the contract, except now you've got Jamal. Now you got another player and you got another contender who not only has a victory, has it by stoppage over a former title challenger, and has the most recent call-out. All of a sudden, Jamal is in the conversation. I don't care how light that conversation is. I don't care if he's got a blowhorn or not. You're still vying and bidding for a job and for a position that you want, and you let somebody else get their foot in the door. None of your arguments are going to get any better, because none of you plan to go fight anybody else. None of you plan to go do anything interesting or compelling whatsoever, which means you're going to have to win it with your words, and all of you are saying nothing.